Hello. So I am currently recording this deliberately on the go because it's kind of an episode about being in Korea this time and how I've been feeling about it and what I've been thinking. And so just to let you know where I currently am, I am near a metro stop or subway stop. Sorry about this, 1 second. So quite a few fire engines, ambulances, as noisy as the ones in the UK. Anyway, I'm at an area called Gireum. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. I think it's Gireum. Now, it's one stop away from where I've been staying lately, and where I am staying, in Miasageori. Now, that is MiaseoRgi. No, Seoul. Rgori. Yes, sorry. But anyway, I've been staying there since I came back from the Jeongsan Film Festival, which was also the Aporia International Film Festival, where my film was shown a couple of times. And I've been staying in this place that's good value and really good, let's say, landlady. And it's very clean and all this. But the thing is, I'm going to move on to what I'm feeling about this trip, or how I feel about being in Korea this time. Lots of things have changed in my life. Not necessarily since I've been here, although some things have. But I mean, just in general. But really, this is about, the feel of how I'm feeling Korea. Now, this. First of all, just to recap where I am, it's Gireum, and I literally just thought to myself that the evening was plodding on. It was about sort of 7:30, nearly 8 o'clock, and I thought I didn't quite want to go back home yet. I mean, in the old days and 3 years ago when I was in Korea, I would have probably had a drink, and I'm not drinking. Haven't had a drink for 3 years, and so I just thought. I'm seeing various bits of Seoul that I haven't seen before, but normally that's because somebody has asked me to meet them, and they've either suggested a place because they think I would like it, or it's an interesting hip place to be, or quirky maybe, I don't know. But the thing is, and the other reason is, for example, someone's got a restaurant. Someone I met at the film festival has a restaurant, or they used to have a couple of restaurants. They seem to have various little businesses or startups and things, and I went to meet them yesterday, and that's not far from the Digital Media Centre, so from near World Cup Stadium. I think the stop was Jeungsan. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I might be completely reading it in my mind wrong. So I'll try and find a slightly quieter street. I'm not sure that's possible in Seoul. Well, there are quiet streets. So just to give you an example, it's now 8:35. So basically, I got off here at Gireum. I thought, let's try a stop that's a place that's very near to home, so that I'm going to get tired. I already am feeling tired. I got up. I've been getting up crazy, not that early, but I've been going to bed late, and a couple of times I had to get a bus. Especially when it was Zandari Music Festa, which went on for 3 days, so I was covering that for the Not So Korean podcast, and just because I do like indie music. And what I'm trying to say is, basically, I wanted to sort of try somewhere new that just by getting off the metro, off the tube, off the Seoul subway. And if you see my posts recently, and of course you're going to listen to this probably a couple of weeks or so, maybe more, maybe less, probably more actually, slightly, after I've after this has happened. So what I'm trying to say is, I've lost my train of thought. Sorry. Oh God. Let me just pause this a sec and think where I was. So anyway, the point is, I've been tired. It's not that late now, but it kind of is in some ways. Maybe I'm an old man already. But the thing is, I've had these late nights, and so I'm getting tired. But I still want to check out places. I've just spent a lot of today in Anguk. Now, a lot of people will know that because one of the main palaces is there. Palaces, and I walked down Insadong, which leads off from that area, and then to cap it all off, I went to a Thai restaurant in Anguk as well, and that was because I was posting. Well, one of the reasons is to do with a picture I was taking because of the YouTube channel called Retired Working For You, of which I'm kind of connected to, you could say. The guy he's a Canadian, a bit like Tim, obviously, and he focuses a lot on Thailand, but his wife is Korean, and they've got a child as well, or rather a grown a teenager, I believe. And I went there to have a Thai meal, and that's another thing I'm going to do a podcast about, I think, about Thai Indian meals. You know, they're often Korean style, but I won't go into that right now. But what I'm coming to is, one other thing I did while I was there, I spoke at length with a girl at the Comfort Women statue. Now, if anyone knows me quite well, they know that I'm an activist for various causes. Seoul. Sometimes Tim joins that as well. There's some Jeju issues, the Navy base on Jeju and other things. But yeah, the Comfort Women, or the Wianbu, as they're called in Korea. They have another name in Japanese because, they do, but it did affect the Japanese women before the Korean women, or girls, you could say, actually. Yeah, we're talking like very young girls, underage girls. So what I was saying is, I've had a long day, but I still didn't want to call it a day, and I thought, let's just get off at the stop just before where I live and check that out, because I'm realising this time, and also being sober, and I mean completely sober. Not that I was a wreck or anything last time I came here. This is my first time in 3 years, but also my 8th time, and all the other 7 times I would have, as normal as people kind of do, as expected, drinking. It's quite normal, whether it's the UK or here. Unfortunately, it's normalised, but hey, it's a lot of fun. But at the same time, it's got its major issues. And so I was thinking I'll come here. So I've just had a look around. I feel like it's just, it's justified. It's difficult to tell, especially in the evening. I mean, it's always buzzing in Korea. There's always something going on. And one street might have like a typical coffee shop, maybe obviously restaurants galore, bars, maybe karaoke places, maybe the legit ones, or maybe some other male orientated ones, let's say. But I haven't really seen much of that here, but I wasn't looking for that. But of course, you've got the GS25 and 7-Elevens, those shops around, and CU maybe. I haven't seen a CU here, but they are everywhere. And I just wanted to see, just see what this vibe is. Is it a kind of, I don't really know Seoul like people think I do. I know a lot of the university areas. For example, I know where some of them are, or maybe I know where a lot of them are, but it doesn't mean I've actually been to them. So I don't know much about this neighbourhood I'm in. It's only one stop away from Miasageori, which is where I'm staying, as I mentioned. But I decided to grab a coffee, decaf coffee, where in a lovely coffee place that had a nice vibe of music. I don't know if it was K-pop or not, but I'll ignore that. But there was this. I managed to get my coffee, which I've done a separate episode about this, just about coffees in Korea, iced, hot, decaf, etc., mainly surrounding decaf. But I just wanted to come out for a walk. But the main thing I wanted to speak about, I haven't got to that point yet, is how I'm feeling in general. The reason I say that is there's a few reasons. I wasn't that excited about coming away. I was coming away for anywhere between 3 and 6 months, and actually I got a one-way ticket, and that's the first time I've ever done that. Not just for Korea, for anywhere. And not because I was thinking, I'm never going home. It was just I hadn't decided. I had an undetermined, end date. Why would I know when I'm coming home? Because I had the film festival. And then I was going to stay here for 2 or 3. Then I am going to stay here for 2 or 3 months max, so that I stick to the 90 days visa rule. And then, bear in mind, I went to Thailand for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to probably go back to Thailand, use that as a base for a month maybe, and then to India, all being well, and maybe back to Korea. But let's just put that into perspective and think, well, hang on a minute, that's going to take us to, if I went away at the start of August, well, I did go away at the start of August, so that's going to take us to January. And also I've got a friend that's doing something in Thailand in January. Actually two people I know are doing something. So I've got things that are kind of being booked up, so it seems silly to go back home and come back out. Not that those things couldn't be missed. They're not sort of end of the world things, but one of them's quite important. But so my feelings are, when I was leaving, put it this way, when I was leaving Koreatown, New Malden, and leaving Timothy, because he was living there, Tim, and when I was leaving there, I actually said, I don't know if I'm even excited about going away, and I wasn't excited. I was going away because of the film festival, and that gave me an excuse. I really wanted to get away from, sometimes you want to get away from just the country. Bear in mind, we've all been locked in, if you like, for 3 years, well, 2 years, but, I haven't been away for 3 years, over 3 years. So, actually, over about 3 years, because I was away in Barcelona for a few days. And that was around this time 3 years ago. Well, no, it was my birthday, so it was so it was less than 3 years ago, but since I've been to Asia, it was over 3 years ago. And I was thinking, why am I not craving to travel to Asia? Why am I not, especially Korea? I was not feeling it. Now there's a couple of hypotheses or reasons for this, maybe, and one of them is, for a start, I was living in Koreatown. I'm not saying I'm not going back there. I'm just saying that's where I've been for a few years. Tim has been there for a sort of year and a half, getting on for 2 years, I suppose, soon, especially when this goes live. It'll be scraping towards that. And maybe it was just a bit Koreaned out. You only see certain aspects of Korea in Koreatown. I mean, the restaurants and people and people that you see on the street. And, and obviously cafes and the odd event put on by great friends of ours. So I was thinking, why am I'm not even craving it. My other reason, or my thinking about this, is that when I went away before 2019, I had a job, and I do work now on and off. I do some work. It's not that often, but I am doing some work, and I'm always doing something creative, but it's not necessarily what people might say work as in day job work. But for when I went away last time, my life did change then, because I went away and I was really disliking the job I was in anyway. So I actually went away for 3 months. I went to India, had some treatment there, Ayurveda treatment. I'll go into that another time if necessary. You can find it on my personal YouTube channel and everywhere really. I'm sure it's posted some other places. And so I was thinking, that might be why, because if you're craving to move away if you're craving to leave something you don't like, but then let's just say your life is actually all right, everything in your life is fine. It wasn't absolutely fine. I mean, God, it's difficult to find anyone in this world where everything's absolutely fine. Sure, myself and Tim, we had the podcast. I was living in Koreatown, and but even that can grind you after a while if you stay so long, especially if you are used to travelling. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, back then when I was trying to get away from that job, then, you know, I just didn't want to come back then. But I did come back, but that was after I had quit my job. I handed it to my friend, who was my boss, and it was a long story. But and that was actually what took me to New Malden. So basically I went from northwest London, jetting off to Korea. So and I've spoken about this before. Instead of going off from Kilburn to Korea, and then ultimately Kingston/Koreatown, all the K's basically. And I then started living in a Buddhist temple. A friend of mine who is a Sunim, which is a Korean monk, basically, Buddhist monk, sorry. Well, either or, maybe. And so maybe that's what it was. So now that I'm here, the first day I'd been 2 weeks in Thailand, and you know, great hot weather, great food. It's one of my favourite foods, Thailand. Great friends. I've got a few friends there. Just great. So it's a different buzz there, and I was liking that. Actually, I didn't want to leave Thailand to come to Korea because, again, I wasn't really looking forward to it. This film festival was, I wouldn't say messing me around. There was just miscommunication maybe between me and the people involved, or the person involved. Miscommunication, perhaps delay on my part, and maybe, you know, some misunderstanding on everyone's part. So when I got here, after Thailand, when I finally got here, I had to go through the hoops because that was putting me off. You know, you had to do a COVID test, PCR test, before you leave. So, and I chose to do that in Thailand. I didn't want to do that in the UK, risk losing a lot of money on the flight because you can lose it all. It's not like it was before, where the flights will be reimbursed to you if you test positive. Some companies might do that. Of course, you've got travel insurance, but even that doesn't necessarily cover it. And so it was that. But also, when you arrive, you have to do a PCR test. And the thing is, there was more of a risk. A couple of months ago, you would go into quarantine if you tested positive. The risk wasn't so great now when I came a few weeks ago to Korea. And yes, there was a risk. You might have to quarantine. The chances are they could put you in a state quarantine if you didn't have any friends here or something. But if you had someone here who could vouch for you, I think this is how it would work. And they say, well, no, we've got a place. He can stay here for 3 days. And that's what the festival did say to me. Now, I was thinking, God, I hope I'm not negative. But the thing is, you don't find out. You go to your hotel. You then find out, I think, by the evening. So, you know, and I was just thinking, God, let's just hope it's right. I was already in Korea, so that's already great, you know, that you're actually here. But if you suddenly find out you've got to pay £50 or £100, maybe, you know, every day, and that's quite a lot. So, and also, well, I don't know, it's just different stories out there. So, what I'm getting to is, once I was here for 1 day in Seoul, before I went down to another town for this festival, I was feeling it a little bit. Korea, this is Korea. And I didn't, bear in mind, although I didn't have a reason to get away, apart from a lot of angst about getting away, but not knowing why I was going away, I did feel it, and I thought, oh wow, but also the fact that I haven't got to go back home in 2 weeks. You know, sometimes that's how long I've stayed here. I think 2019 it was 2 weeks or thereabouts. I have stayed here for 5 weeks in a row, and this time I'm staying for, you know, 2 or 3 times as long as that. So, almost 3 times, perhaps. And so maybe there was like this thought of, right, you're here now, you haven't got to keep travelling, and this is a familiar territory, it's a very safe place. It keeps changing, Korea, but I feel very safe here. I feel familiar, I can use a bit of my crazy Korean. And, you know, maybe that was it. But then, of course, I rushed down to the festival. That was up and down a lot, and I can go into that another time if it's felt necessary, if it's deemed necessary for the podcast. But we probably will, because we're going to cover it at least in some way, myself and Tim, on the podcast. We will be chatting about it. So I rushed down to the festival. That was nightmare at times, but also great at times. The film screenings, you know, I won't go into that. So then, just over a week ago, I was back in Seoul, and I was, and I think some of this is to do with the fact that I've come from a hot place, a hot country, Thailand, to hot Korea. Not as hot as it was a few weeks back, and apparently not as hot as it's been in other late summers. Now we are in, you could say now we're in autumn. It's just turned into September recently. So of course I did arrive when the weather was blazingly hot, but even then people are saying no, it wasn't as hot as we often have it. And then we've had rain, we've even had typhoon, although I think the media are saying it was worse than it was, and it wasn't that bad where I was. I did go outside the day of the typhoon, but it wasn't, I mean, some places got worse. Maybe the south got worse hit. South of South Korea. So I was thinking right now, and I've been in Seoul a week, and I love, as I was going to say earlier, I love the metro system. I love most tube metro system. I'm a bit of a underground train spotter, and I mean underground maybe because I hide about it, but also it's underground trains, as in subways. And I've always loved the Seoul subway. I have a feeling, even though I'd been to Thailand a few times before I came to Korea 10 years ago. Korea was 10 years ago was my first trip. Maybe I don't even think at that point I'd even used the BTS. No, not that one. The BTS SkyTrain, etc. in Thailand. So maybe I had nothing to compare it to, because that is brilliant as well. I have to say that is great. But I mean, Korea has it sorted, and they have done ever since I've been coming here. Yes, it's got its issues, and I posted on Instagram recently about this pros and cons subway system. But I just can disappear. I don't mind being a stranger in a country. I feel this is a safe place. I don't have to watch my back. I can leave my stuff in a cafe and go to the toilet and walk away. I could even go away for an hour and it would still be there, probably. It's that kind of place. And some people say, no, it's the CCTV, that's why it happens. And I think, no, it's not. It's the nature of Koreans in general. And I'm not saying everyone's perfect, and of course not. But I'm saying it's not the Korean way to be, to be like that, or to take something. Maybe that's because Korea, maybe this is just my perhaps warped thinking or slightly off thinking, because they've had things taken from them, in the past. I mean, their country almost, pretty much, and their dignity maybe, in the past. They've had, the women taken away, and I just, so maybe the thought of taking something from somebody, stealing, but of course crime is everywhere in the world. So I was thinking about it today, and I have done a couple of times this week. I've met yesterday, for example. I'm just going to say this, I have days where I haven't met anybody friend wise. I don't want to be, so that's the other thing, you see. If I was here for two weeks or 3 or whatever, and then you've got to pack all these meeting people in, and it feels like it's not a holiday. And I don't want this to be a holiday. This is, in a way, but it still doesn't feel like you're getting much downtime. But now I've got a lot of time here. I can have downtime without thinking about it. And we're just approaching Chuseok, which is this sort of a Korean Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm not going to have anyone to meet up with because I could. There are expats, and I know a lot of them actually, but they'll be busy. And also, I'm not bothered about being on my own. So what was I saying? So I just feel like, so some days I'm meeting friends, sometimes I'm not. But like yesterday, I met a translator who's actually going to be a guest on the podcast. If you haven't already heard him yet, he's a translator and writer. That's all I'll say at this point. And then I went to meet some other friends I'd met at a festival, as I briefly talked about earlier, a restaurant that I went to that was a little bit further away, and I missed the last train tube because of whatever. And again, I'm not drinking. It was literally time ran away with me. I forgot that they do stop sometimes before 11 or 11 on a midweek, and they're not that much later on the weekend, to be honest. So I taxied it back. But you see, So that's a part of this thing where, some days I'm really busy, some days I'm not, but I'm still thinking about this as I'm travelling through the metro stations or walking. I have done a lot of walking. And I know some people might not like this hot weather, and it's not as hot as it has been, as I say, and as I've heard. But I don't mind it, because I like it. I'm from the UK, we like a bit of sun. Yes, I mean, some people go, yeah, but Thailand is, and obviously Korea summer when it's crazy hot, is not for everyone's liking. And I can understand that. You do get exhausted, and you walk into an air-conditioned place and it's the opposite, so it's freezing cold, and, you can't get a happy medium. So I like it, and I'm happy. And then maybe that's part of this, because I'm in the summer. This is my first time being here in August, September. Yes, August, September. Because I came mid to late August, and I've come in June before when it was getting hot. But this, on my 8th trip, this is my first experience of being here in August, and I've been here in September before, but normally towards the end of September, often for Zandari Festa, which was this time a lot earlier. And often because of the Busan Film Festival, and also I used to tie in with my birthday, which is at the start of October, basically, around the start, pretty much at the start. They're about, so. And I was also thinking, as I was walking along today, thinking how I'm liking this. I'm really liking this. I could live here. And I've thought that before, but then I was not sure before if I think, I could live here. I go to a country and I think, I could live here. And I think a lot of that was wanting to escape from the woes and troubles in my own life, for example, the work, and just England, for all its greatness, it's got a lot of issues at the moment, and it has done for a while, and it's just repetitiveness. It's like someone said to me before, well, it's not someone said to me, I've thought of this argument, I mentioned it a few times, like, why would you want to live somewhere else? Well, it took me, let's just say, for example, it took me, I don't know, a few decades to get bored of London, to get bored of Britain or England. So, and also let's just say 10 years to get bored of London. I do like London. I'm just saying that. And so, if it took me anywhere between a decade and 3 or even 4 decades to get bored of somewhere in Asia, bear in mind I might not live that long. None of us know how long we're going to be here for. Then so be it. I'll take that time if I get bored of it after a year. And I don't mean bored as in, I don't think I would get bored. It was more just, maybe I would, because if you get bored of one place, in other words, your home, maybe you then you trigger this habit of getting bored of places. If you never visit other countries, like I never used to travel. I did with my family when I was younger, but I didn't take a flight by plane. That's the general kind of flight these days, unless you've got a helicopter and you're a bit rich, or jet. Well, that's still a plane. I didn't for 15 years ago. Then I discovered Asia, a couple of flights after that, and I thought, there's more to just England. And so now that I've found it, it's really difficult to go. For me, it's really difficult to step back and not be in the UK. Of course, I've got family in the UK, and that's something. But the other thing I was thinking about was walking through Insadong today, and of course that's very touristy. I don't know if it's more because I spent my time for the big areas where I've been. I've been in different areas, but the big sort of 3 main areas which are well known is I was in Itaewon, which I don't necessarily go to. A couple of reasons for that, but I won't go into that in this podcast show episode. Well, I suggested it though to meet Chris Parker there, the one from Retired Working for You that I mentioned earlier, because he had a reggae bar there years ago and went to see where it was, and it was a great evening. And so that's a very foreigner area, expat area, and Westerners, if you want to say that. But also Hongdae, which is also a bit like that, because it's a hip place to be, and the other place was, as I mentioned, Insadong, but also that's Anguk where the palaces are, so it all kind of, and Bukchong where you've got the Hanok villages, so it all kinds of connects. And those are 3 great areas. But what I mean is, when I see foreigners and I suddenly see more, that's because I'm in those areas, but I just suddenly thought to myself, these people are here, they're great, they've come here now, maybe they live here, but some of them did look like they were tourists, I don't know, sometimes you just tell they're tourists, and I look like a tourist. I'm wearing Thailand t-shirts or whatever half the time, and I'm not. I probably do look like I'm a tourist, but people might not realise I've been here. I've been coming here for 10 years. But I just think that I saw these people and I thought, wow, these people are coming here. This is great for Korea, whether Korea are seeing it or not. I mean, individuals, I'm sure they do notice that tourism, if it is, that's what I see, it's picking up. And I'm thinking these people are going through the effort of getting those PCR tests. I think it's the majority of the main countries that come here. Of course, Chinese aren't travelling anywhere, really, so they're, that's without them. So that's when things are really going to kick off and pick up in Thailand and South Korea and other places. And so it's just, I was just thinking to myself that Korea, with all these hurdles you have to do to get here, and they are going to drop the pre-flight PCR test. If they haven't done already, actually, because I can't remember what date that was going live, but so that means you've only got to do a test when you arrive, which is fantastic. You've still got a bit of worry, and some people might say, well, no, I'd rather you drop the one when we arrive rather than the pre, because then they don't have to worry. But as I say, the concern is less now, the quarantine is less, if any. So yeah, so but these tourists, these people are here, and it's the summer, of course, so they they've taken a chance and come here, or that they might be visiting someone who lives here, works here as a teacher, or as a student here. I've met a few people that were studying here or exchange or something. I'm not sure if it's exchange, but they're that kind of thing. And yeah, so I've just been thinking a few things about how I've been feeling arriving. I haven't really had the first week I was here, first 10 days. I wasn't really in a frame of mind to even get any time for thinking. Well, I did a lot of thinking, but it was always like a lot of stress and other stuff going on, and also some good and some bad. And so I didn't think about it, and I couldn't wait to come to Seoul, which was really weird because I didn't think I would be saying that. I thought I'd be saying I'll get away from Seoul. But I do have a lot of friends here. I do feel incredibly comfortable here. I could, I say that I could live here. Who knows? I've always thought that, though, but now I thought, well, maybe not. I'm just, like I said, I might be just escaping something in the UK, or spend half my time in 2 or 3 countries. Well, split my year by 3 or something, and spend it in UK. And 2 of these Asian countries over here. Maybe I'd go to another country and suddenly fall in love with that. But I do know, and now I've found a way that yes, you can do this affordably, even with rent. You can do Airbnb, which I knew is not as cheap as I thought I could get. Maybe I didn't book it in advance that early either. So now you know this, and if you can do that. If you can live somewhere fairly reasonably priced, of course, and Korea is not that. I kept thinking it's expensive. It's not. It's expensive for hotels if you're doing hotels every night. But if you forget the accommodation, which I know that's a big thing, you need accommodation, or you can stay in a Jeungsan, the sauna places. Well, I think though, someone told me the other day that they stopped all that. They stopped people staying in them for now because of COVID, which makes perfect sense. So I think you can still go to them. I think they're still open, but you just can't stay the night there. I'm not like you could before for a few pounds for almost next to nothing, apparently. And so I just been. But I guess I'm rambling a bit now. But I am just saying that now that I was thinking Korea is expensive, but it's not. Yes, of course, everything's gone up in the world. Everything's going up. The pound, just different currencies are being hit badly, but I still realise that I thought Korean meals. When I look at how much a Korean meal is in Koreatown, or even London, central London, you are looking at standard, I don't know, £10 for a meal, and that's not bad. If you do it all the time, it can be expensive, but for here, it's even less than that because. Well, it just is. Let's just say something's 8,000 baht for a Korean food, so that's probably £5 or £6. Yes, it's not as cheap as it used to be, of course. I don't know how much soju is now because I don't drink, but that used to be very cheap. And Thailand's cheaper, yes, and that people say that wasn't cheap, but Korea, it's still got the travelling by metro is still very, very, very reasonably priced. You just tap everywhere. It's just tap everything. I've been tapping my card, my payment, my bank that I use, tapping away. I've got cash, but I've just been tapping away, and it's just everything just works here in Korea. Yes, that's what I've been thinking. Things just work, and you've got these places, these shops, these convenience stores. I'm noticing stuff that maybe I would have noticed 3 years ago, but because you don't get time, you're rushing from place to place. You're thinking, I've got to get there, I've got to meet this person. And now I'm taking it in, and I'm going to, as I say, I'm completely straight-headed most of the time. So I'm just taking it in, and these places that self-service, you can go in there, cook your food, or buy food. There's a whole convenience store I went into. You just scan something and then pay and then leave, and there's nobody there. There's no person. Yes, there's CCTV, of course, but it's just that. It's just, and I'm not. So there's partly the trust, because obviously you could still get someone trying it on. I don't mean trying clothes if they sell those. I just mean trying it on, as in trying to steal. And there is poverty here. I always say there's not poverty in Korea, but I was talking to someone the other day. There is poverty. It's not as much as some other countries like the UK, but it does exist. You don't see it so much, but it is around. But I wouldn't even say that. If I was here, I would say, I don't see any poverty, because it depends what you call poverty, whether it's homelessness, whether it's someone really struggling. So I just feel like there's, Korea's still got a lot going for it, and yes, I love and hate it for different reasons, like I do the UK, I suppose. And I just feel like it's got everything's convenient. Everything, as I say, it's not perfect. There's some stations that don't have access for people with disabilities. They're working on that. They're working on a lot of stuff. They're starting recycling more than they used to. They still like to use a lot of plastic. I mean, gosh, the umbrella machines I've used for the first time, which I put a post on Instagram a little while back. That you basically go into certain stores and they've got one of those machines. You just put your umbrella in. It wraps a bag around it. You pull it out, and then that you can walk in the shop, because they're Koreans. They don't like water splashed everywhere. And in many ways, it makes perfect sense anyway, because you don't want people slipping on water. You might go into a shop that's got flat, what am I trying to say? Shiny floor, and then you get a tiny bit of water. You can actually cause accidents. I'm sure that's not the main reason, but it's another thing that could happen. So I'm standing here right now with my decaf coffee, and I'm just wanting to say this because I've just been thinking, I do like Korea. Yes, there's things I don't like, and things that might be changing for the worse, as they are in different places and different things. I won't go into those right now. But on the whole, it is a great place to be, if you don't mind being. Maybe I'm fortunate, as in lots of my other friends who come to Korea. We have got friends that we know here, and I'm not even just talking about expats. I've got quite a few Korean friends, and that's great. So if you've got some Korean friends, that's brilliant, because you are a part of the Korea, as opposed to coming here and you literally have just your foreign friends. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that's how you start, and then you get introduced to others. So you've got a head start when you've got friends, and that's, these friends of mine are fabulous friends, and I'm so thankful that I've got still got loads of them to see at this point in time, and I will see them. So if I think of anything else, I will add it on, but otherwise I'm gonna pass you back to the the end of the show, back to the studio or back to the music. And may everyone enjoy their life wherever they are. Just look at what there is around. Look at what's going on. Just take it in. It's pretty. It can be amazing. You know, in whichever country you're in or you're visiting, you know, there's something around every corner. There's normal life just going on, but there's some amazing things happening. You know, I feel it, and people's passion. I know one last thing I felt. I'm sorry, I was going to say goodbye, and I will. You know, even at Zandari Festa, where the music was playing and everyone was jumping around, and I thought, this is brilliant. You know, and I love to see. I don't know what it is. I love to see everyone dancing and stuff. And you know, fair enough, they might have had a drink, they might not have done, and especially Koreans, it makes me feel, you know, I don't know. I just get get happy, basically. So, yep, that's it. And I will speak to you next time. See ya.